And now to our final speaker of this evening, Professor Stephen Howes. Professor Howes has a PhD in economics from the London School of Economics and has conducted extensive research for the last 20 years into the economics of the Asia-Pacific region. Between 1994 and 2005, he was at the World Bank, most recently as the lead economist for India based in Delhi. He has been chief economist with the Australian Agency for International Development, USAID, and in 2008 he worked on the Garneau Climate Change Review. He is currently at the Crawford School of Economics and Government at the Australian National University, and so it gives me great pleasure to welcome Stephen to give us his overview on research on the implications of carbon trading on the world's poor.
Okay, well, thank you, Caroline. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for the invitation to join this panel. I guess being the last speaker, you have two disadvantages. First, everyone's kind of getting a bit tired and eager to ask their questions, and second, the other speakers have already stolen your thunder. But I guess what I want to do is give a different perspective, I think. I don't want to expose carbon trading, but I guess I'm going to try and suggest some of the limitations around it and what are the other solutions we need to look to. But I want to begin by suggesting we've got a topic tonight that's both important and difficult. I think you've already heard how important it is, how carbon trading is already here, it's with us, and it's only going to grow in the future. So it's definitely an important topic. It's a difficult topic because it's not that easy to work out always, how its effects are going to be felt, especially by the poor. So let me just give you one example, an important example of energy pricing. So ultimately, as you've heard, one of the underlying aims of carbon trading is to push energy prices up. So actually, the clean development mechanism doesn't do that, and the sort of offsets approach that April was talking about doesn't do that. But if we're really serious about carbon trading is about putting a price on carbon. And most modern forms of energy are carbon intensive, especially in developing countries where they're very reliant on coal. So if we're going to see carbon trading expand, we're going to see energy pricing go up. Now, how is that going to affect the poor? Well, in developing countries, energy is a luxury good. It's not like here where everyone's got electricity and just about everyone has a car. And so paying electricity and petrol bills actually takes a bigger share of the budget of the poor than of the rich. In developing countries, most people don't have a car, and many don't have electricity. So whereas in Australia, an emissions trading scheme would be regressive, it would hit the poor most, and the government would have to take measures, and is planning to take measures to counteract that. In developing countries, raising energy prices is progressive. It will hit the rich more. All right, so that's a good thing. That's an argument in favour of carbon pricing. But the downside is that what we're talking about is the modern energy sector, and in fact, as you've been hearing tonight, many in developing countries are simply shut out of this energy sector. So just to give you sort of in macro terms what you've already heard, you can see the sort of hundreds of millions around the developing world that don't have electricity. So that graph coming down is East Asia. So China's been very successful in spreading electricity. But you can see that in South Asia and in Africa, there are still hundreds of millions of people who don't have electricity at all. And then also, as you've been hearing tonight, even those who have electricity don't use it for cooking and heating, right? They typically use it for lighting. Even in China, which we think of as a superpower, an economic powerhouse, in 2000, 700 million, that is most of the people in China, still used biomass. That is, they used wood, charcoal, dung for cooking and heating. And those numbers, if you look at projections forward, all right, those are slightly lower numbers, and obviously these are big estimates, but they're going to stay high across the developing world. Now, you can't put a price on these traditional fuels, right? They're not in the market. And because they're not priced, people just go out and collect wood, you certainly can't tax them. So what's going to happen if you put a tax on energy, on modern energy, is you're going to lock people out of the modern energy sector. And that would be very sad. That would be a disaster because, as we've again heard, this reliance on traditional fuels is a very bad thing. It's energy poverty. It locks, in particular, women into having to spend hours of collecting the firewood, and it's very bad for the environment. And some of the recent research on the melting Himalayan glaciers, and you've got to remember these glaciers, it's like, as people say, it's a third pole. You know, it feeds, it provides water for all of South Asia and all of East Asia, and it's melting. Most of it will be gone by 2050 at current rates. And it's melting not only because of global warming, but because of the soot from people burning these biofuels. And that soot heats up the lower atmosphere. It also lands on the snow, and the snow therefore absorbs more heat. So we want to get people out of energy poverty, but we don't want carbon emissions to go up. That's the real complex issue that we're grappling with tonight, and I think it's a very difficult question. It's a lot more difficult, frankly, than the issues that we're struggling with in Australia when we think about how to address climate change. I certainly don't have the time to give you a complete answer tonight. Even if I had the time, I don't think I could give you a complete answer, and you've heard some of the answers from the other speakers, but I just want to make a couple of points.